Hello everyone, just wanted to make a video to follow up on a lot of the comments that came up in that Reddit thread regarding the arena bug. Originally it was my video that was posted onto Reddit by a buddy of mine. And so I just wanted to go into depth about some of the comments I saw in there, some of the comments that I've seen elsewhere regarding like just what's been happening with that and some of the arguments I've seen for or against me even exposing this or making that video in the first place. Now, I do want to clarify that I had no intention of it being posted there or did that myself. There was no agenda. So I'll clear everything up. I'll go into details and be like completely transparent as to how everything happened, and then break down like some of the arguments I've seen. So I do want to start off and just apologize to Phoenix Master because I did accuse him of knowing about the glitch and purposely like even keeping it to himself. There's been a lot of word of mouth on like who knows about this and who's like basically prevented like any discussion on this and why they would want to not have this basically come to light. And the bigger a player circle is, the more likely they are to have someone that would have told them about this. But he presented evidence of himself, like just to provide like basically explain that he had nothing to do with this, that he doesn't know about it, and I did make that accusation. It's a big deal because I had no evidence, just based off of word of mouth. So again, just wanted to apologize. As far as like explaining how everything's happened, so again, I mentioned that a buddy had posted it, right? Originally, he posted to 4chan, right? I don't know, it's Messer. You can see his tag on Reddit when he made the post, but it didn't quite take off. They thought he was self-advertising, or they thought I was self-advertising. Sorry, I found that quite amusing afterwards, but didn't quite take off in the way he expected. So then he posts it to Reddit, and it starts getting traction. So people start commenting, they start talking about how it's working, and how has this been around for so long that wow, this is a big problem, etc. And then it starts getting I'd woken up at this point, so I'd seen the thread myself. I thought it was just amusing at the time, didn't think much of it, thought whatever, more people know, good. At this point, I think Phoenix Master comes into the thread, defends himself. We cleared that up. I apologized to him on Twitter as well. He had a link to the thread as well, which is good because more people do need to know about this. It's a big problem. I'll go into details on like who this benefits the most as well, in terms of my opinion. You may have a different opinion, but I do want to clear up some of the arguments I saw because I feel like they're in bad faith or they may not have the same perspective that I do, which that's okay. So as far as aftermath of everything so far, people are upset on both sides. Some people are mad that I've exposed this. I don't really care too much if you're mad about that, but some people are mad that they may have been affected by this in the past, and I feel for those people because they may have. If you've ever been on the cusp and you've just lost because of 5 spots or so, very likely you lost because someone used this exploit. And I don't know, what's going to happen going forward because clearly people know why they may have lost out. I don't know. So as far as some of the arguments I saw, right? One big one was that whales wouldn't use this because they already score enough. Now I don't quite agree with that, right? I mean, there's obvious reasons why a free-to-play player would use this exploit. I think there's more nuanced reasons as to why a spender or / whale would do this. But I do actually believe that a spender benefits this from this particular exploit much more than a free-to-play player would. And like, I can even use myself as an example here, right? Like, I'm a spender. Like, I'm not doing this to brag or anything. It's just pointing out, like, I do have many +10 units. Like, I've spent on this game. I don't have any legendary heroes, though. Alm is my only +10 legendary hero. Otherwise, just a barracks, an assortment of units, right? So, it's just... The reason I'm bringing this up is because that argument that a whale wouldn't benefit from this or use this is wrong. They may, in fact, be able to use this and exploit this because they don't have the legendary heroes. And that's a problem. And despite, me doing this, it's a hypocritical, I suppose, but I do want this patched because I think it's a big problem. And so I do have an example I wanted to show of someone that may do this even despite having +10 legendary heroes. Like, here's the example here. So this is, assume these are all +10s, right? So the nature of the argument is this. They're all plus 10. It's Ross bonus week. You're running into a lot of Chroms, Azuras, a lot of mixed comps. There's a lot of duo units you're running into. It's a hard week. You're not having a good time. And so you could probably still do it, but it's a lot of work. Like everything's running a dual rally. Your real, unit that is going to clear most of the teams for you is Lin, right? Otherwise, it's going to be tough. Like you're running into a lot of hard-hitting stuff. Chrom would outright kill a lot of these units, right? Maybe even Ross in some cases. So it's not easy. But if you're a whale, if you have the resources, instead of that, why not do something like this? So assume this is Lin. I was just using it for an example, but like you'd have the level 40 Lin max merged as the first slot, and then you have Azura, Wrath, and these can all be low merge. If you want to know how the bug works, there's better explanations out there. I'm just explaining in a general sense as to why a spender would do this. But if you want to know how that works, better material to refer to. They know the intricacies of it. I don't. I know it works. But what would happen here is this could be level 1. He could be level 1 or 40. He could be no merge level 40. He could also be no merge level 40. So not only do you save on potential feathers compared to this team, because Ross would need to be max merged here or very close on this end. You don't need to spend any feathers to max merge Ross. He could be, level 40 no merge. And by doing the exploit, you've not only made Arena easier for yourself because these units can run real assists like reposition and dance, but you get an easier time and less material loss to even get this arena team going. The reason I use this specific example, and this is where the problem comes in, one level 40 legendary hero, 22 copies of legendary heroes. So here's what I'm posing. Here's what I think is a real problem that may be going on. Again, this is pure conjecture. I have no way to prove anything. If someone has known about this exploit for quite a while, what they could have been doing since, November of 2017, they could have been selectively pulling only 1 copies of certain legendary units because they don't need multiples. They can just use this exploit. Why would they pull more than 1? If they're in this to abuse it, they have no need to pull for more than 1 copy. So the argument that, a whale or a high spender wouldn't do it, completely wrong. I don't buy that for a second. There's reasons for them to do it regardless of the fact whether they have numerous copies, plus because they may not have more modern ones, right? And that doesn't take away from the fact that they would have spent. They're still a high spender. They just don't have the more common ones. Maybe they haven't kept spending. Doesn't matter. The fact is that there's still a real probability that they're doing this. There's a chance, and the fact that that chance exists, the fact that there are people potentially doing it is a big problem. As far as the other thing I wanted to go into here, right? So like assuming that there's a person only pulling 1 legendary copy, if that person is a spender, they have, a lot more orbs to spend on other materials, right? Or units rather. They'll pull 4 mythic heroes, which means that they're going to score higher than their F2P counterpart because they no longer have to spend on legendary units because they're using this exploit. They can pull for more premium skills. Basically, they have more options available to them because they've never even considered pulling for legendaries. They're never going to because they can just keep using this bug. And as far as, addressing the argument that I'm hurting F2P by doing this, let's actually go into that a little bit. So I've used Lin and Adun as the example here, right, for both ends. So if you were F2P, obviously you wouldn't have the 2 plus 10 level 40, water heroes. You could if you saved, but realistically, you're probably not. The thing that's a problem here is if you're using the exploit with, Felix or Flame Emperor, it's going to be harder to execute. That's obvious, right? You have a unit that isn't going to be as powerful and dealing with units that are very, very oppressive. It's still possible to do, however. It doesn't mean it's not impossible. It just means it's hard. But you could still do it. But let's just say someone manages to do it. So one person does it and it works. And they manage to score way more than they should because they use the exploit and they did it with Flame Emperor or Winter Felix, right? Um, let's look at the other side of this, because every time a single person does this exploit, it means that someone is getting kicked out. So if someone does it, person, on 658 here, Thanos snapped. He's out. And likewise goes for any single person that does this. For the number of people that do it, X amount of people get kicked out. And this is purely speaking of people that are F2P that do this just to, maintain tier 21. Regardless of the fact that you're doing this, it's actively hurting people that may be F2P as well. Like, I could use an example here. Maybe there's a player that is in F2P using Legendary Ike, and he has a relatively F2P core, and he barely manages to get, 754 a game, or 756, and he has to work because his team isn't very strong, but he manages to do it, right? He gets 5 matches in, and he barely drops out by like 5 or 4 spots. The reason he dropped out was because people were doing this exploit, right? And I mean, at this point, considering it's been around for so long, I would surmise maybe, 50 people have been doing it in the past week, maybe more. I don't think it's as low as 5 or 10 as some people say. I think it's considerably higher. They have a term for it. They call it quote-unquote dark arts. And it's like a pseudo-prisoner's dilemma here, where they don't want a lot of people to know, because then there's a worry that it'll get patched, but they keep it, to themselves and their friends and stuff. It's just completely wrong. It's ridiculous, right? Because at this point, if more people do it, again, I don't want to explain how the process works, but it makes it harder to find games, but it's still possible, because I was able to do it this week. And I've dropped quite a bit, because I was almost 40 out of 80 when I did it at Reset, but now, it's still there, and it shouldn't be possible. And the other thing I wanted to address, right, as far as, someone that's, using their orbs as spender, because again, I do believe they benefit more. They're now using their orbs on other materials, and then the F2P who do this get ahead, and now they're able to save their orbs on non-legendary heroes, and then that person, that F2P player that's spent on plus 10 legendary Claude or plus 10 legendary Ike, they're, left to demote. For what? Because they didn't know about this bug, even though they did everything legitimately. Ike just happened to be their favorite character, or Claude happened to be their favorite character. That's where they spent their orbs. They should be rewarded for that, but they're not. The potential is there. It doesn't matter how many people are getting affected. I want to reiterate that, because there's been dismissive arguments of this, saying there's not enough people doing it. One person doing it is one too many. There shouldn't be any people doing this. It shouldn't be possible to do this, period. And then the other thing I want to bring up, and then the reason I changed my name, this goes back into when the Mythic bug was around. Now, again, something I don't want to go over too much, don't want to spend too much time on that, but ultimately what it did was, for people that spent for, legendary heroes and were doing arena assault, they'd run into teams they shouldn't have based on score. There should be a minimum score they should get every time they run. We're getting scores below that. Well, this was so much of a problem to them that they rallied together. They changed their usernames. They had people sending feedback to get it addressed, and it did. And ultimately, the only thing it did was make it so that, you're going to show up higher on the leaderboard now, because you can match the scores. So it's purely an ego thing. It has absolutely no tangible effect on rewards. It doesn't do anything. They were upset, rightfully, because their investment should give them what they put in, right? Naturally, I understand why they're mad, but doesn't that go the same way for people investing in Arena? Like for free-to-play players, or if it, happens to be people that even spend on Arena, shouldn't it be the same way? Why is it that that isn't a problem? This has tangible effects as far as codes, right? Codes and orbs. I don't really care too much about the crown, but these and these are really important. And people are getting these when they shouldn't be, because they're using the exploit. This has a tangible effect. The Mythic bug didn't. And that got fixed through people rallying together, and no one has seemed to care about this. And maybe I'm being, maybe this is a conspiracy, maybe I'm being paranoid, but my suggestion would be just consider the idea that this is happening, right? Because it's possible. So if this gets fixed, what I believe may happen is you'll notice some people on your friends list maybe that end up dropping out of Arena maybe the following week. Maybe a couple. Maybe it's a fluke the first time because they have to overhaul this. Maybe it happens more than once. At that point, is it a fluke? Is it maybe they were doing this? Maybe they were doing the worst case scenario where they only have the one legendary hero. And they've never bothered pulling for years. They never had to. So, I mean, I just want to close on the rationale as to why people would do this. I mean, obviously the resource gain is the biggest one. You're getting more rewards, so you naturally just want to do this to get ahead. It's obviously wrong. Explain why it's wrong. Some people might just be doing it for the streak. Like, legitimately, they might just want this. Which, I mean, if that's what they want, that's fine. It's still wrong. I find that more vain than, you know, everything else, but okay. The last reason, though, I think this is really important because this play into some things that, and I think this is a really bad reason, but it is a reason. There's a lot of social aspects to heroes, right? Like, we communicate with each other through Discord, through Twitter, through Twitch, whatever it might be, right? There's some communities that actually gate certain channels, or like just like the community itself, it's so elitist that you need to meet a certain criteria to get in, one of which might be maintaining tier 21. And it's really sad, but that might be the reason they do it. And I think, like, just, you know, the combination of all the factors here is why this is a problem, right? There's like a lot of reasons to do this, the resource gain being the most obvious. Again, I think this benefits whales or spenders more than any other group. I think when people try to push that argument that it's only helping, you know, F2P, not true at all, right? Like, spenders benefit from this more because now they have more materials for other things like AR defense to make your life more miserable, or they have more mats to get ahead in ether raids so that they can pull more mythics, get more merges, so now they get ahead of you. It's things like that. If they want to get ahead in arena, they should do it the fair way. And I really hope this gets overhauled soon. I'm going to keep my name like this, just like they did for the mythic bug. This is a bigger problem. And that's pretty much it. That's all I had to say, and I appreciate anyone that's stuck around and watched the whole thing. And if you have anything else to say, just leave it in the comments. I don't normally do Reddit or YouTube videos like this, right? It's just I really wanted to get this through, and I wanted to get my apology out and just clear the air about everything, right? So I think that's it, and thanks for watching.